In part 1 of Brahminhood, Evolution or Imposition, we saw how ancient Tamil scriptures mentioned this concept as part of culture, showing the community's role as living guides from the material to the spiritual. In this video, we explore the design behind that shape, how spirituality forms the base, leading society toward the higher self, with Brahminhood serving as a role model for the spiritual journey. Human existence is woven in five concentric layers. The sarira or kayam is the physical body, formed of foods and elements, and this is called Annamaya Kosha. The prana or Sakti is the vital energy of breath and circulation, and this is called Pranamaya Kosha. The manas or manam is the mind, the field of thoughts and desires, and that is called Manomaya Kosha. The buddhi or arivu is the intellect, the light that discerns right from wrong, and this is called Vijnanamaya Kosha. The chitta or chittam is memory, the storehouse of impressions shaping our tendencies, linked to the deeper sheath of tendencies. And above all shines the Atman, the eternal self untouched by change, experienced as the Anandamaya Kosha. This layered vision is taught in the Taittiriya Upanishad, echoed in the Katha Upanishad with the chariot metaphor, and also named in Thirumandiram and described in Sivajnana Bodham. Together, these koshas show how body, energy, mind, intellect, memory, and self are layered, each needing discipline to remove impurity and realize higher consciousness, forming the living temple of awareness within every human. As per the great teachings, every layer of human existence has avoidables, known as dosham or ashosha or thitu in Tamil. Often misunderstood as untouchability, thitu truly means impurity to be avoided. Meat, liquor, harmful food, violence, and unclean habits are dosham or thitu for the body, that is at Annamaya. Misuse of breath or life force for wrongful deeds is dosham or thitu for the prana, that is at Pranamaya. Anger, jealousy, and dissatisfaction is dosham or thitu for manas, that is at Manomaya. False reasoning and misuse of knowledge is dosham or thitu for buddhi, that is at Vijnanamaya. At the chitta, retaining impressions that bind us to lower instincts is a dosham or thitu. And at the Anandamaya Kosha, ignorance of our true nature itself is a dosham. Thus, dosham or thitu is not about excluding people or object, but excluding impurity. From the spiritual sense, guiding every seeker toward higher realization. While realizing the self by avoiding doshas at each level for achieving higher consciousness, we must not forget our ancestors who gave us this body and the very basics of life, nor the rishis who gifted us the spiritual knowledge and revealed the ultimate truth, the Brahman. That is why we perform Shraddham and Pitratarpana to honor our forefathers, worship rishis through observances like Rishi Panchami, Guru Puja, and worshipping the Kula Guru, and worship God who is the ultimate reality. Thus, the design of self realization is woven into our daily life through remembrance of ancestors, reverence for rishis, and devotion to God. Thus, the journey of self realization is beautifully designed through progressive disciplines. It begins with acharam and anushtanam, setting purity at the body and mind level. Then comes Surya Namaskaram and yoga, etc., with dhyana mantras connecting body and mind. Pranayama channels energy rightly, while study of the Vedas, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita directs the intellect toward ultimate truth. Performing the 16 samskaras invokes blessings from the Devatas, and speaking, teaching, or spreading goodness through art, music, or science extends this knowledge into society. Service through charity and temple duties fulfills our responsibility to the community. And finally, meditation, silence, and detachment prepare the soul for liberation. These are not exclusive quotes but universal quotes. Since the core of these teachings are preserved in Sanskrit, one must know Sanskrit to truly access them. Unfortunately, across India, the number of seekers of Sanskrit has declined drastically, and with this decline, the seekers of the Vedas have also dropped. Without Sanskrit, the doorway to the Vedas and their universal wisdom narrows, reminding us that language is not just a medium, but the key to unlocking spiritual knowledge. That is why a Brahmin, following the guidance of great rishis, scholars, and ancient Tamil poets, from both Vedic and Tamil traditions observes certain core disciplines in life. In principle, many of these practices were intended for society at large. However, because of their strict and demanding nature, only certain groups have continued to follow them rigorously in pursuit of higher spiritual refinement and self discipline. These practices associated with Brahmin life were fundamentally rooted in spiritual discipline and ritual observance and not intended as a form of social exclusion. Anyone who practices them deeply can walk the path of Brahminhood as per rishis and ancient scholars. That is why, in the Dharma Sutras, laid down clear conditions to make anyone a status of Brahmana through conduct, study, and devotion. Let us now see what those conditions are. Ancient scriptures like Gautama Dharma Sutra laid down in chapter 4, verse 16 to 20, that these practices ought to be followed by 7 generations in a family to attain the status of a Brahminhood. Later, the Baudhayana Dharma Sutra in chapter 1.8, verse 16 to 18, reduced the requirement to 5 generations. Over a period of time, Apastamba Dharma Sutra in chapter 2, verse 1 to 4, and Parasara Smriti, chapter 2, verse 2 and 3, established the rule of 3 generations of strict practice to attain the Brahminhood. Scholars note that if a grandfather, son, and grandson all maintained these practices, Brahminhood was recognized. Yet, even with this shift, the weight of such a disciplined life remains a challenge for many, and that few choose to carry even today. The only difference between these types of Brahmanas is that some continue to carry the Rishigotra lineage, a legacy preserved for thousands of years and reflected in their Abhivataya mantra, while others do not have this ancestral lineage. This distinction may eventually result in two sampradayas. What is available in Vedic texts such as Grihya Sutras, which means domestic ritual manuals, Brahmanas, which means prose commentaries on Vedas, and Dharma Sutras, are also available in ancient Tamil Sangam scriptures like Padinanki Kanakku and post Sangam literature like Achara Kovai, Yeladi, Trigadagam, Naladiyar, Nanmanikadigai, and Sirupanjamulam, etc. Thus, both Vedic and Tamil emphasize high standards of personal conduct, purity, and moral responsibility. Originally, Brahminhood was not an exclusive birth based identity but a title earned through mastery of these rigorous disciplines. Anyone who committed to a life of self control, learning, and dharma could aspire toward that ideal. Over time, as these demanding practices became difficult for the wider population to maintain continuously, certain communities took on the dedicated responsibility of preserving these scriptures, rituals, and traditions. Thus, Brahminhood gradually evolved into a specialized role of cultural and spiritual guardianship, while the teachings themselves remained a universal guide for all humanity.